everybody, how's everybody doing today? I hope everyone's having a great day. Welcome to one of my videos where I use exposure and response prevention and thought recording to treat my choking phobia. Well, what is choking phobia? If you haven't been watching my videos, how dare you? Choking phobia is basically a fear of choking on food. It's an anxiety disorder, it's a phobic disorder. People that have it most likely have other anxiety disorders. Like, for example, I also have OCPD and social anxiety and cannabis dependence. So basically what it is a disorder where you feel that when you eat food, you're gonna choke. It's like a food phobia. It's closely related to swallowing phobia. The only difference is swallowing phobia is you fear swallowing, the actual act of swallowing. Food phobia, or I'm sorry, choking phobia, you fear the act of eating. And it's not so much food phobia as much as is choking phobia. There's choking phobia and swallowing phobia. Swallowing phobia, as I mentioned, you fear the act of swallowing. Choking phobia, you fear the act of food going down your throat to swallow. So how do you treat this? First thing you do is you rate your anxiety of choking on a scale of 1 to 100 before you do, I know this is scary, but the anxiety provoking thing. So for example, if I have social anxiety, what I do is I rate my anxiety before I go, for example, outside to work. Then I rate my anxiety after work. That's actually a really good idea to kind of get a good read about how anxious I feel. I might do that today. But these videos are mostly about choking phobia, but I have thought about even branching into other things. So let's just, without any more ado and all this like blah blah blah, welcome to my video on my channel. Let's just get into it. So I gotta first rate my anxiety on a scale of 1 to 100 that I feel I'm gonna choke. Let's take a look at some of this bread. Look at the consistency of it. Okay, spread like. Got no napkins to piss me off. Let's go with a solid 10. But I don't even think. See, this is the beauty. I don't know if it is the beauty, but it's one of the things I've noticed when I rate my anxiety. First of all, I want to be anxious. I want to be correct that this is my anxiety level, because I may not even eat this bread simply because of the unappealing taste of it. I mean, just the look of it. Like, I paid like I think $1.25 for this. I thought, I'll try it. That's something new, right? But so I'm gonna put it like. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think. I'm gonna have at least a piece of the bread, so yeah, like 10 seems quite fair. Now, this is the part most people don't want to do. By the way, if you get bored while doing my chewing sounds, there is Star Trek playing on my Netflix. If you don't want to do this, start with something less solid. For example, hard-boiled eggs instead of naan and samosas, or muffins, cheese, potato chips. Work your way up slowly. Don't be scared to just say my entire meal is just a cheese plate, some potato chips, and a chocolate chip muffin. And if you only eat half of that or just a quarter of that, go for it. You'll realize slowly the anxiety will come down on a consistent basis if you make these consistent videos, which in my videos I call them video journals, because I know a lot of people don't watch them, but I still feel that if someone does watch them, they're a video, but to like mostly they're video journals. Okay, let's just get into this. Anxiety is 10. I'm gonna try the bread first. I don't know if I'm gonna eat it. It's like a butter naan or something. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. And this is not because I fear choking, but I just spit the food out. I don't mean to be rude or anything. It didn't taste very well for $1.25. You're just getting a piece of bread with some butter on it. And so let's just move on. I'm not gonna complain, because I'm very picky as it is, and I really shouldn't be. So I'm not gonna complain. I'm just gonna move on to the rest of the food. So the exposure is done. Sorry if it was boring. That's basically how these videos work. Okay, you guys watch me eat after I my anxiety. So now I'm going to rate my anxiety now, right? Yeah, let's be honest and fair here. It's gonna be oh good lord, like a 7. So very, very similar to the beginning of 10. So you're probably wondering what I was writing down if you're the first time watcher to my video. It's the thoughts that I'll be sharing with you in my second part of the video. Sorry. Where I basically talk about what's going through my head while I was eating, because I don't like to talk while I eat because of my choking phobia, and also because I think it's just how I was raised. I'm not a talker eater. I'm more of like an eater. And I'll talk afterwards about how good the food was. In this case, about the thoughts I was having, combating my choking phobia. So let's go to my car while I can relax, have a cigarette, have a Coke. I'm gonna take some medication real quick, and I'll come back in about 2 to 3 minutes, whereby we will be talking about the thoughts in my car, about what exactly was going through my head, to just help me understand more of like which thoughts I believe in and which thoughts I don't believe in, which thoughts are like, you know, I guess more truer than others or whatnot. I believe more. Just give me a second. Welcome back. All right, still here. I literally just went to take some of my medication and just go in my car. Well, have it pick up my keys, my sunglasses, right? I'm getting all set up for like the vlog part of my video. The first part was like, if I was to differentiate it between like a practical and like lecture, right? The last part was a practicum of how to practically overcome anxiety. This is the lecture part where I explain maybe some of the parts about anxiety that are unclear or whatever I want to focus on. Or I would talk about, for example, what I usually talk about, which is the thoughts going through my head, which ones I believe more than others and why I think about them, to help me kind of get my day going, because it's very important. I realized it's like the brain is it needs to be sharpened. So especially in the mornings, guys. In the mornings, it's very crucial that what you say, or at least what I heard, that what you say influences you by like so much in the morning. So what you surround yourself with, what you say, for example, if it's positive or if it's negative, will have a direct influence on the rest of your day. So if you I have to try my train of thought. What was I talking about? The day and okay, let's just move on. Alright, so let's go with the thoughts and images during my exposure and response prevention. So I want to say they're actually fairly accurate, like 99%, 98% accurate. Number one, did I really spit the bread because I did not fear choking? So as you notice, I had tasted the bread. I tasted it for two reasons. One, because I wanted to see if, like, my choking phobia, how bad it would get so I could stay with it and allow it to come down. Also because it was cheap when I was ordering it, and I thought I never had the bread before from them. I think only once. And I remember thinking it was like, wasn't very tasty, but I remember that was like the keema, the meat bread they had. It was bread filled with meat. So I thought maybe I'll just try the bread with the butter on it, see if it's better. Realized it was the same bread. The only difference is they put butter on it instead of, you know, the meat. So I was like, okay, you know, I just didn't taste it. I literally thought, like, I could go to the grocery store. Well, no, I'm just thinking, like, that's something, like, I don't know, like, I'm not saying it, I'm saying, like, I'm a picky eater. Okay, I've been self-diagnosed with, like, picky eaterness, food neophobia. So to say the food is bad for me, it may be good to a lot of people, like they sell it in the restaurant. I don't know if they have complaints about it. Me, I've had better tandoori naan from other places, so that's why I kind of stopped eating it. But I wrote the thought down. Did you spit it out for your choking? Because it's kind of related to, like, do I, for example, do religious acts to ward off this harm of choking, or because I want to get closer to God, right? It really helps clear your thoughts. Like, why did you do that? Most of the time, you're too scared to even entertain that thought, and if you do, you just say, oh, because God's, to get God's favor and to be away from God's wrath, which is a perfectly great explanation. No one should be saying that's a bad explanation. What I want to make clear at the same time is the psychology of it. Like, why are you doing this? Really deep down, because if you don't really deep down uncover why you're doing it, you're going to kind of be doing the same things over and over again until you realize you can become, like, freer. You know, I don't want to say freer. It's like a bad word. Like, just more aware of your thoughts and happier. How about that? Moving on. You're not real. Yeah, so I was hallucinating. Actually, I wasn't hallucinating. I was thinking I was hallucinating. I really was hallucinating. I don't know if there's a difference, but I was definitely seeing something, and it was annoying. So I said, you're not real, in my head. And most of the times that, you know, I haven't been taking my meds for the past 15 days for my hallucinations, and, you know, I've been thinking about this a lot. Look, I always need to take my medication, so I can't just stop taking it. At the same time, I've heard it's linked to, like, huge diseases, like heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, and, I don't know, cancer maybe. And I'm thinking, if they're willing to pump me with this stuff, what's the difference between this and marijuana? And obviously there's a difference. Like, marijuana doesn't help me sleep. And marijuana helps me, it's like my coffee. It gets me up in, it's like I'm Irishing up my coffee, okay? So I'm not gonna take one of those before I go to sleep. At the same time, I have noticed that years and years ago, like around 2008, I did have problems sleeping. I would fear, like, the voices, and I would fear just delusions of, like, just weird things, okay? So the medications definitely made it so that I didn't think those things. At the same time, I realized maybe some of that might have to have had to do with, like, my life, what I was having at that time. Like, I might have had a mental breakdown, as I mentioned in my other videos, about how well, first off, in my family, no one likes to talk about anxiety except, you know, me and my father to a certain extent. But even him, he thinks anxiety just means you're sad. At least that's what I'm thinking. I don't know exactly. He says I understand it, I know it's real, but then when I try to explain him things like, oh, you messed up my schedule, or you said something and then you said something again that's different, he doesn't understand that I'm not saying that, you know, to personally attack him, because he's like, you're arguing with me. He doesn't understand that it's actually like a symptom of my anxiety. As I said, he thinks anxiety is just sadness. So, which is odd, because when I'm sad, I'm not really anxious as much as I am, like, I'd rather be anxious than sad. Well, no, that's not true. When I'm sad, I just think to myself, I don't know. I'm never actually aware of when I'm sad, especially nowadays when I try to stay positive. So it'd be hard to go back in time and figure that one out. But let me try to think. When I'm sad in front of my father, I don't think I remember actually ever being sad in front of my father. Maybe it might come to me. Let's just keep going on here. These thoughts. Or I thinking about the taste of the food. The shami kebabs tasted cold and weird. They had this weird. They were cold, so I was too lazy to put them in the oven or microwave. I was like, I'll eat them tomorrow, whatever. I'd rather have my food hot and unprepared. That's why I paid for it, right? Second thing is, it was stuffed too much. I've had shami kebabs before from a really good place, and they're like the best shami kebabs I had, and they're the whole reason I like shami kebabs. And so when I ordered them here, I thought they kind of have the same consistent quality. Whoa, was I in for a surprise. They're much bigger, because shami kebabs are like shaped like hamburgers, and they're like beef, chicken, like a chicken patty, but it's ground, hand ground type of thing, with like ground meat and whatever, I don't know. And I guess the way they make them, where I bought them just now and I was looking and ate a little bit, they were overstuffed. They looked overstuffed. It was too big. I ordered 2 and I thought I could eat both of them. I couldn't even eat one. It was just too big. And it had this weird texture. It looked furry. I know maybe it was just because it was cold or whatever, but I just didn't like it. When I was comparing it to the Eastern food shami kebabs that I used to eat when I was growing up about 10 years ago from the store, they're so good. But now I don't live in that city anymore, so I can't order them, and they're awesome. Anyway, move on. And now I know how the world works. Yeah, so I was thinking about this YouTube content creator named Just Rain. He was talking about, I guess, different aspects of Punjabi life, living in Canada, right? Living in Ontario specifically. And I thought it was interesting because a lot of what he was saying was making sense. So that thought came to me that I was thinking about this. Now I know how the world works based on what he's saying. Based on what he's saying, I can now understand how certain social groups act. For example, people at parties, or brown parents, or Punjabis in school, for example. And I just found it very interesting to kind of talk about that. And then the next thought, though, was very important, where I said, I don't, like, how do you know that? How do you know that? You're basing your thinking on a YouTube video, right? That has to be a thinking error. Because how can you know how it's part whole thinking. I should write this down. If it's part whole thinking, or you think, and I get a lot of part whole thinking. I think it's because, like, of my OCPDs, kind of like autism, my autistic traits, where I miss the forest for the trees. It's part whole thinking, where I'm thinking I know everything about the world based on one YouTube video, right? How does that make sense? How can you know everything about the world based on one YouTube video, or even one YouTube artist, even if you watch all the videos and memorize them? We're talking about the world. He's only talking about certain parts of the world, or certain things in the world, or certain things about the world. He's not talking about everything in the world. So this is something to think about. It's called part whole thinking. Another example is, for example, you see, like, you go to a zoo. At the zoo, you've never seen lions before, and all the lions were like striped, right? And you're like, wow, the lions were striped. You know, they're striped because, let's just hypothetically say that this zoo striped their lions, okay? And you're looking at me like, wow, that's what lions look like. So now you think, until you've seen another lion outside of that zoo that looks like a normal lion, it's like orange, you would think all lions look like zebras. And if you held that thought as your belief, all lions look like zebras, you would be experiencing a thinking error, part whole thinking, right? Until you actually look it up in a book, what do a lion look like? Or nowadays, I'm kidding, Wikipedia, you look at what a lion looks like, you're like, oh, I was a mistake. Just like now, I think I know everything about the world based on just this narrow view of a YouTube video content creator, right? Hope that's clear. Next thought, I dropped some food. So picked it up, threw it out. I was actually supposed to pick it up and eat it. It's like the sunnah. That's what Muslims do when they drop food. They're supposed to pick it up and obviously clean it off, dust it off, and eat it. Unless it's like really, really dirty, then you can throw it out. Because it's like really bad to waste food. Like I know in Islam, our Prophet was hungry very, very many times, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the people around him didn't like what he was saying about Islam, so they stopped selling him food, like to him and his family. They were starving many times. So it's very, very, at least according to what I've learned, like to waste food is a big deal. It's considered like a major sin. I know even like unintentionally doing it is considered wastefulness or excess. It's just really, really bad. That's something I think all Muslims should try to kind of work on, especially in Ramadan. I've noticed in Ramadan, they have like so much food everywhere. You go to like the mosque and they just like plates and plates of it. And I remember one time I was fortunate enough to help out at the masjid. And there was so much food that I had to clean. That was half-eaten, uneaten, half-empty coffee cups, and still rice and all sorts of stuff still on the plate. And this is at a mosque. Okay, so God knows, Allah knows best what's happening in Muslims' houses, but because at least at the mosque you have a certain amount of shame, like I'm in God's house, I should be grateful, I shouldn't just be pouring it on, bringing all the food in, asking Brother Ali to get me a second plate or whatnot, right? So, Sister Fatima, are you going back for more samosas, or, you know what I mean? And she's like, I think you've had enough. So this Sister Baljeet, and she's like, she takes a hold of her hijab and says, I'll tell you when I've had enough. Right. Let's move. Where am I doing with this story? Just give me a second. I need a little smoke this joint. Let's see here. Deciding. Going to. Alright. Next thought is going to mom's. I'm going to see my mom today. Next thought, mom's going to be proud of me. And next thought is, I want to criticize the food, but I'm not allowed to. Right? It's one of the thoughts I had, like, while I was eating. Because when I'm eating, I get, like, these hyper-religious thoughts mixed in my OCPD. But I think it also do with the shame I feel of being a gay Muslim. So I have to, like, overcompensate. And no, I don't mean overcompensate in, like, penis size, because I'm not that childish. I don't think penis size has anything to do with a person, unless you have a really big one, in which case you might need to see a doctor. What I mean to say is, because I have this shame because I came out and then I converted to Islam, also I have been diagnosed with OCPD, which allows me to kind of get really obsessive about religion and really pattern-oriented and goal-oriented and rule list structure-oriented about Islam, that I have these thoughts sometimes about what's the best way a Muslim should be eating. You eat with your right hand, you're on the floor, you say Bismillah before you eat, say Alhamdulillah after you eat, you drink 3 times, you eat the way the Prophet ate, with the way 2 fingers, right? All these different things. You don't criticize the food, you don't waste the food, right? And like, I can memorize all these things. And so I need to separate what I know, because, I want to know, and what I want to practice, because I believe, versus what my anxiety is telling me to do to stop me from being, anxious. Because that's a response I want to prevent. Alright. Let's move on. I don't understand. While I was talking about my mom and then I was talking about criticizing food, I have no idea where that link comes from. If anyone knows, definitely leave a comment. I don't. Next thought was deciding where to work. You might be thinking that means, like, in terms of I have different job opportunities. No, I mean, like, I do basically the same job. Skip the Dishes and DoorDash is the same thing. Food courier. Problem is, should I work where I live now, which is a small town? The tips are brutal. I'm gonna be honest. The tips are brutal, except for one or twice. The tips, you're not gonna get more than $3-4 per tip per order. But the pros are, it's very small. The town is very small by like square kilometers, so you can get from one part to the other part in like 10 minutes. There's no highway driving. Even the rush hour traffic is like to be laughed at compared to Mississauga, which is like another town I live in, I work in, but it's bigger. Obviously, it's like a suburb of Toronto, you know. Way more people. Where I live, there's 100,000. Mississauga, there's like, I think 1.1 million, something like that. Point is, there's a lot of people there, but that also means there's highway driving, there's big rush hour traffic, there's horrible bottlenecks, snarls, police activity all the time. And the tips are okay. It evens out. I say okay because it evens out by just the sheer volume of orders you get there. You can easily get 20 orders in a day. Easily. If you work from 10 to 10, you get 20 orders in a day. Even that averages out to $8 an order. It's what? Right? Not bad. So, I was deciding where should I work because I was thinking about what Jim Rohn was saying. He was like, saying, basically, you should, no, not Jim Rohn, my dad was saying this. Excuse me. My dad was saying, stay in the city you live in because you don't have to commute, because he commutes all the way to Toronto. Sometimes it takes him 2 hours. I don't know if that's both ways or one way, but he definitely says he's on the highway a lot. Especially in Toronto, we have horrible commute times. So maybe he's right. I should stay where I live and just do the driving. And I think I'm gonna start doing that starting next week. Like, I'm still half the schedule. I can change it, but I just don't want to because then you gotta like change it and find other shifts to make up for it, and it's just too much work. I might though. What I'm really gonna do though is starting next week, update my availability with Skip the Dishes to kind of be like, I can only work in Milton now. I'll work in Milton, you know, anytime you guys want me to, and stay with DoorDash, so I can kind of do them simultaneously, because I've noticed I've done DoorDash and Skip the Dishes apps open at the same time on my phone, and it's really easy to get one order, and you finish it, and you get another order from another app. Or even if you get like one order, and you get another order from another app, you're almost halfway there to that order, because it's such a small town, and most of the restaurants know what they're doing. The ones that don't, I skip. Therefore, you finish that order, and you do the other order, you can easily just do it, because they give you 2 minutes time to consider the offer. It's worth it. Man, there's so many more thoughts I just don't want to go through, but just do them quickly here. I'm just gonna say them, whatever comes to my mind, I'm gonna talk about. It doesn't matter where you work, stay with it, work hard, or does it, prank call, evil, going down the wrong path. Miles Bay. Moles. Oh, Molig Ball. Ball. The Right movie. These stupid movies. Does psychology forbid praying while eating? Giving $3K to my dad instead of saving up and buying a computer. Stay with it. I'm gonna puke. A couple things I just want to say in the video here. One is, I want to know, does psychology, like in my situation, forbid praying while eating? What is the Islamic ruling on that? And does that mean psychology is wrong? I don't know the answer to these questions. What I do know is that to do anything that would make you feel less anxious after you've prepared for your anxiety exposure is considered a response you want to prevent, which if you don't prevent, your anxiety in the long run will go up, or your trauma or whatever emotions you need to express or to live a more freer, less choke-free, less anxious life will be harder to, come to the surface, maintain, treat, and cure. So let me just say that again, so I'm not messing up words here. Psychology wants you to get better, and you need to get better from anxiety. Anxiety is a physiological response to your thoughts, and if you're being diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, one of the ways to help you is through changing the way you think. And if that means, for example, doing things that you used to do to ward off your anxiety, then that means doing things you need to do to ward off your anxiety, which for a Muslim who has OCPD, who, for example, converted when he thought he was choking, would mean sometimes to not pray while eating. It's not a hard and fast rule. It's something you need to, sit with and think about and realize where your values lie in this. Because you want to like have a kind of, golden, mean, a middle ground between like excessive, religiosity and excessive waywardness, right? If you're too excessively wayward, you'll blame all your problems on your, right, lack of implementing your psychology correctly. If you're too religious, you'll blame all your problems on not being religious enough. You understand? You don't want to go into it's either religion or psychology, that whole age-old battle. No one, just get better. Because once you get better, you'll come into your own. It's like shifting off, like what's that thing? A butterfly turning into a butterfly from a caterpillar. You shift off a cocoon or whatever, and you become a different person with different thoughts, different actions, different behaviors, maybe different beliefs and values. The second thing I wanted to talk about, I hope that was clear. One of the last thoughts I was having, I was eating the food and some saliva was in there and I was about to eat it. It was just becoming a bolus. About to swallow, and before I swallowed, one of the thoughts that came to my mind is, I'm gonna puke. Not I'm going to puke, I'm gonna puke. Which, honestly, this is privileged information, but I'm gonna share it with you guys. It was actually one of the first thoughts I had when my psychologist first did EMDR on me. EMDR is, as I mentioned before, eye movement desensitization reprogramming. Basically, some people say it's hypnosis. My mom says it's hypnosis. On the Wikipedia page of EMDR, they say it's not like hypnosis. But I think to myself, then why are they calling it? Why is it even mentioned as hypnosis? I don't know. It's basically a way for you to create a safe space in your head to allow yourself to process traumas that you may have had. The thing is, you should do it with a trained psychologist, so he can tell you, like, for example, one very important thing that I liked that he said was that when he was dealing with me for the first time, he said that we're going to focus on a traumatic memory that you had, and you may feel physical responses, and if you don't feel comfortable anytime, just raise your hand and tell me to stop. And I thought, okay, like, I've never done this before. I've tried all sorts of therapies. Let's try this one. I've never really had a physical response, like he said. I'm not even kidding. He starts it, and I have this huge feeling in my stomach. Like something's wrong. Like you're just, like you gotta go to the bathroom. And then I think remember literally one of the thoughts I was thinking was, I need to use the bathroom to poop before we start this thing. But then I'm thinking, I'm already in the I'm already in the therapy. I can't just be like, because if I say stop, they'll wait for me, I'll come back, and then we'll do it all over again. And it's like, I'm thinking, let's just do it. I'm here. It's so expensive, by the way, anyway, right? Don't mess it up. So I kept with it. After about 45 seconds to about a minute and a half, when he starts talking to me like, we'll focus on the memory, focus on what was happening, where are you, these different things, I literally felt like I got the same feeling. I was gonna puke. I literally could feel bile. I could feel like saliva. You know how when you're gonna puke, sometimes there's an excess of saliva in your mouth? That's how I was feeling. Like, it's like that pre-puke. Your body's like already putting saliva in your mouth to coat your mouth from the acid coming from your stomach to protect it, right? It already knows. The brain's just catching up. The body already knows it's coming out, right? So, fire in the hole, right? All bets are off at this point. And so it's the same feeling I was feeling. Like, I can't believe how I'm feeling. I literally told him I was going to puke. So that was the memory we were focusing on with him, and it's obviously something private, but I am sharing it with the YouTube community because I think it could help. I don't know why I was having it again while I was doing my exposure, and I just was. It's obviously, I don't know, it's psychology related, but I'm not really trying in terms of, like, I don't know what the exact real fit is. Maybe just give me a second, I'll think about it. I can't really think of anything. Like, I know I had that EMDR experience and I had it again. It obviously wasn't as profound. I think it just has to do more with my autistic traits. Like, I'm really picky with my food. I think I had a bad experience with the shami kebab I was eating. And so when I was eating the last of my food, maybe a part of me was thinking, I'm so happy to stop, to like finish eating. Not because of fear of choking, but because I'm finishing any food that some of it wasn't tasting good. So maybe I got too over eager. There's too much saliva in my mouth. I mistook that saliva for the saliva that comes in my mouth when I'm about to puke. Maybe that's the connection. So I wrote it down, thinking about it. How long is the video? Okay. So obviously this is the video, my exposure, my life. I highly recommend doing these videos. Even if no one watches them, they help you sharpen. Like, imagine your brain is like a knife. The sharper it is, the better it'll be used to cut things. You gotta get those real good quality knives, right? The ones the chefs use, $200 or $300. That's what you gotta get. You gotta turn your brain to one of those chef knives. Sparkling, glittering, the nice handle. I'm not gonna lie, after I make this YouTube video, I'm gonna go on YouTube and look at those really nice chef knives. The $300 ones, okay, or even more expensive. That's what you need. Quality, not quantity. I'm not sure what that means. I mean, it means like you need to be not perfect, but professional. Right? Not scared, but cautious. And not too over eager, but like, workmanlike and get the job done. Alright guys, so I'm sorry I didn't make much eye contact. Oh yeah, I did when I was eating, but here's some more. Hello everybody. And remember guys, I'm gonna end the video here. Remember guys, stay with it.